members, obviously having had a caucus meeting, they were all wearing black, and those who were not wearing black were wearing red. And the absolute majority of them who were in black had red headscarves. They had red cloth at their hands and other things, protesting the decision. But this to a number of them. They walked right from the entry. They went to the ceremonial entrance of Parliament, where they did chant. They sang their party anthem, patriotic songs. They did quite a lot there before they came in. And before they were allowed into the chamber, they were asked to remove all their red scarves and armbands that they were going to use to protest, because they were unparliamentary and you were not going to be allowed to go into the chamber with that. And so they were stopped right at the entrance before they made entry. And then they did ultimately go in there. But their message was clear, that they were there to actually push against what they describe as the unconstitutional decision of the Speaker. They did believe that the Speaker had not taken a constitutional decision, and they wanted him to rescind that, and they were willing to go all extent to get him to do that. Not only were they there alone, they were there with the full support of their party leadership. The national chairman, Stephen Ayesu in team, was there. General Secretary Justin Kojo was there. National organizer Nana Boachi, and a number of their National Council members were all in attendance today in Parliament.
Us coming to Parliament is no news. We always come and support our parliamentarians. So it's part of the usual work that we have been doing. So we are here to let them know we have the support of the mother party and we stand with them. Very simple.
National Chairman, you were also here yesterday at the news conference. You are here again to offer support of your MPs.
Our support to members here is unrelenting. We can afford to leave them come here alone.
Stephen, a team there, the national organizer himself, Henry Nanabuachi, I haven't seen you. Your bosses have spoken, so you wouldn't want to see anything.
So that's an interaction between Kweku, you, and Justin Kodia, who is the General Secretary of the party. But only yesterday, the minority leader had sent a concise 5-page memo to the Speaker challenging not only the constitutionality of his actions, but also his authority to do so. Did he today explain why the position had shifted?
So, Brace, this was the anti-climax. In fact, the MPs had come in there, like I've explained, wearing black and carrying red armbands to protest what they believe was the unconstitutional decision of the Speaker. And in fact, had been given an indication that they were going to make their point on the floor forcefully, that the Speaker of Parliament was acting arbitrarily in the decisions he had been taking. And a lot of them were surprised. You could sense it right from the back when their leader, they go to the days and now shifted the tone to an apology. Yesterday, he had penned that 5-page memo test challenging the constitutionality of the decisions having been taken by Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin. He had described them as unconstitutional. The parties had put out a statement describing the Speaker as acting in a dictatorial sense. But today, Alexander Fejomakin said he accepts responsibility for all that his members did at the appointment committee, but also that they do not challenge the power of the Speaker to do what he did, but they are here today to ask him to tamper justice with mercy. Listen to the minority leader in his own words.
Our intention was to have a peaceful protest to express our displeasure at the excesses of our colleagues in the majority. We acknowledge that in the process, the situation got out of hand, resulting in the outcome you commented upon. We hereby assure you that we shall, as the minority, cooperate with you in upholding the integrity and the dignity of this House. Mr. Speaker, we also want to assure you that we will undertake a deeper, and emphasis mine, a deeper consultation and commit to this with our colleagues. Mr. Speaker, we have become aware of the consequences of orders you have issued as a result of the formal communication you have given. Mr. Speaker, we cannot take your power through discipline from you, but we believe that when this is tempered with assurance that the way forward will be better, you will be able to reinstate our colleagues who temporarily have been denied access to this chamber and the precincts of Parliament. Ours is not to undermine your authority. After all, it is the confidence we had in you that made us by consensus to vote you into office. And we accept your authority. I, on behalf of my caucus, would want to assure the public that such an action will not be seen in the public space again. Mr. Speaker, I take full responsibility as a leader on my side on all actions that took place. I will therefore conclude by inviting you, Mr. Speaker, to, in the circumstance and with assurances given, to consider a rescission of the decision you communicated to the House.
Well, Kweku, it usually doesn't happen, but today the minority leader got the backing of the majority leader, who called on the speaker to temper justice with mercy.
Well, yes, Grace, right after the minority leader spoke, you got the sense that there were certain members of his caucus who were not in agreement. There were murmurings at the back. People, some of them obviously surprised, because they had all come in today expecting that they were going to take the fire to the speaker, challenging that decision of his. But like you said, they did get the backing of the majority leader, Mahama Yarida, who also went to the dais and asked the speaker to temper justice with mercy.
Understood by the generality of Ghanaians as a step that restored the image of this parliament. And so, Mr. Speaker, I believe that your action has achieved its objectives. But as you can see, our colleagues are remorseful. Our colleagues accept your decision in good faith, and our colleagues are appealing to you to review your decision to suspend your suspension, to reconsider your decision to suspend. The Speaker, it is not only members of the minority side that were suspended. In fact, the chief whip of the majority side was also suspended. So clearly the conduct was on both sides. And I also, on behalf of my side, appeal to you to reconsider your decision and lift the suspensions so that our colleagues can join us, whilst the other measures that we are putting in place so that long term we can ensure the orderly conduct of business in this house is achieved.
Well, at this point, the speaker had to take a decision. We'll get back to that anyway, to listen to that particular decision. But he posed a question to all MPs on the floor of the House today on this whole development. Listen to that.
Honourable members, I'm sure the first thing you have realized is that I've restored the title Honourable. The day I read my former communication to you and proceeded to suspend the 4 members, I never used the term honorable. I have done so now because your leaders actually came to me to plead that I temper justice with mercy. If any of you here is not remorseful, please be on your feet.
Well, Kweku, what was that actually for? And did any MP rise, on this particular one? Kweku, I want to find out from you that the speaker asked that if any MP is not remorseful, he should stand up. I want to find out what actually was that for, and did you see any MP rise up that I am not remorseful?
Well, that statement from the speaker was actually in relation to a comment that had been passed from among the minority benches when Mahama Ayariga did use the word that the MPs were remorseful about what happened. Some MPs said we are not remorseful, and so the speaker heard them. He turned and looked at them, and then when he got the opportunity to speak, he decided to pose that question. There were so many NPP MPs who wanted to get up and speak. In fact, the MP for Gyasi Sokore, NPP MP for Gyasi Sokore, Dr. Nana Uefree actually got up on his feet and wanted to speak. That was when he was prompted by his leadership to take his seat. And upon getting convinced, he did take his seat. There were a number of NPP MPs who were not satisfied with what they believed was caving to the speaker. They believed that they should have challenged the speaker right to the very end. And so some of them were willing to get up. And Dr. Nana Uefree actually did get up on his feet to challenge the speaker on that point, but he was impressed upon to take his seat. It was then that the speaker ultimately did give that consequential order that the suspension of the 4 MPs have been lifted. The speaker didn't say he has rescinded his decision. He said he has lifted the suspension, but the committee that he had put in place to investigate the disturbances should continue to do their work.
It's not only words. Before me, they demonstrated and assured me of their total support to me and the deputy speakers to ensure that we have an efficient and an effective functioning parliament in Ghana. So I am satisfied with not just the statement but also their conduct, and I will proceed to lift the suspension of the 4 members of parliament that I considered were involved in disorderly conduct which amounted to contempt.
So that's the Speaker of Parliament there. But Kweku, before this matter will be put on hold though, he condemned the attacks on the clerk to the appointment committee.
Yes, you do recall that on the very night of the confrontation, the minority side are taking on the clerk, who they accused of partisan behavior. On Friday morning, the same conduct, and in subsequent press conferences by the NDP side, they've accused the clerk of partisanship. The Speaker of Parliament says that conduct is condemnable, and that this particular clerk to the appointment committee has been in the service of Parliament for 19 years, and it's one of the best. And the conduct that was displayed towards her in attacking her professional capacity was uncalled for.
House and chairman of the Parliamentary Service Board has strongly condemned that incident. The clerk to the Appointments Committee is a public servant and should not be dragged into the failure of the members of the committee to resolve their differences. This clerk has worked with us for 19 good years, and she is one of the best clerks that we have had. Please, you can check from former members of parliament, and she's been at that committee for some time now, not just now.
So, Kweku, we do know that Parliament is back. It was suspended for some time, but they are back. And the report on the vetting of ministerial nominees have been laid. Is that what? Are we having a true picture of, impression of what is happening? Run us through what's happening currently in the House. Before
the House was suspended, there was some disagreement as to the appointment committee report that the government side wanted to lay. That involves Samuel Nati George, the Minister Designate for Communication. The NPP said they oppose this nomination and they're going to subject him to a secret vote. There were some inconsistencies in the report because while some part of the report did say that it was being approved by consensus, which would have meant no secret vote, the NPP, Alexander Afenyo Martin, was on his feet to make it clear that when it comes to Sam George and Samuel Rita Blakwa, they do not agree with their nomination and they intend to subject them to a secret vote. So in fact, the report was not laid. The leadership decided that we're going to take a 1-hour suspension and then resolve some differences and come back. And the speaker did suspend for 30 minutes. They are back, but that matter has not been taken yet because as we understand now, a resolution has not been made. And so the leadership are still talking on the back to try and reach an agreement. If the NPP back down on subjecting some judge to a secret vote, the report will be put to the floor and then it will be by a voice vote. If they still insist that they are opposed to the nomination and insist that should be made by a secret vote, the same will be done, and then individual MPs will be called out to go in there to the booth and then cast their vote. But that has not come up to the floor now. In lieu, even though the House is back, they are doing some statements on cancer, and then subsequently, when the leadership return to the floor with an agreement, that report will be taken.
Well, we'll be keeping our eyes on what happens in Parliament, and we'll bring you everything in terms of the voting on the ministerial nominees who have been vetted by the appointment committee. But let's bring in Professor Roger Coranting. He is head public sector governance at the Commonwealth Secretariat, and he's joining us. We also have on the line Samuel Bain, Executive Director for Parliamentary Network Africa. Prof, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. Let me first pick your thought on the protest that took place prior to the sitting. Was it worth it? If I still have you, I want to pick your thoughts on the protest that took place prior to the sitting today.
Okay, thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly now.
Right. I will say that protestation itself is not illegal. It's a way of putting your grievances in public domain for the world at large to understand your position. Some may agree, some may disagree. So protest itself is not illegal. In fact, in democracy is encouraged because it can hear the alternative view because of the power play. Because when you have a power play where those who think that they don't have the power must be heard, it is through protestation that they can be heard. And sometimes it enables a decision to be reversed or to be taken or have a second relook. The only problem with protestation is that when it turns into a mob action, when there's a destruction of public property or life, then that one is illegal. So the protest itself is so long as there was no loss of property or life, that is fine, it's allowed. But I will also say that it is interesting. I mean, sitting in UK, London here, where I've looked at the House of Commons, the way they operate, and looking at Ghana one, obviously. Ghana one, we are about 33 years in this republic. As against, if you look at UK, which is one of the oldest democracy in the world, set up in 1236. They have about 900 years continuous sitting in the UK Parliament House of Commons. And they still evolve, they've evolved over time. So what we're going through, for me, is a way of evolving, and we are maturing. And you could see that even the way this particular episode have been resolved, it tells you how maturity, how majority and minority leadership came together for a long while. They have not done that. We see it's evolving. So we shouldn't be too much worried or despair, because it's, I will call it, a teething problems. We're going to get there, but we're going to have a lot of bombs such as this and others on the way.
Okay.
So I will not really be too worried about what is going on.
Okay.
Learning.
Stay with me. Let me bring in Dr. Kwame Asante. He's a political scientist with the University of Ghana. Prof, Doc, I'm grateful to you for joining us. Let me pick your thought on the Speaker's final decision to lift the suspension on these four MPs. Did the suspension really achieve its purpose?
I think the decision by the Speaker is a welcome one, in the sense that at least from where I sit, I want to believe that remorse has been shown and that they need to go out there and sin no more. This is enough to send a strong signal to them that the Speaker will not countenance anything that brings the image of Parliament into disrepute. And those who are guilty of this will take a quick note, and then next time they don't repeat such a thing. We, the public, we have demonstrated to them that we are not happy about what they did, and in fact, we condemn what they did. So, from what has happened, I think that they will turn a new leaf, and the next time around, matters of this nature, they will be able to handle it with the best of decisions, so that it doesn't degenerate into things that they themselves cannot defend.
I mean, this is not the first time we've seen chaos of that nature before in the House of Parliament. Do you get the guarantee that after this suspension, indeed, we will not witness this again? Because if you remember, on the 7th of January 2021, we saw what happened in Parliament.
Yes, my hope and prayer that we don't have a repeat of such occurrence. But if it should happen, the Speaker would not relent at all by handing down severe punishment. This one, he has spared them. But I'm sure that the next time it will not be to this level. It will take a different turn. And I'm not sure, given the public uproar, the way everybody look at the issue, they themselves, if they do self-introspection, they will realize that they have not acted in a manner that befits their status. So for this one, I'm sure we can allow it to pass. But the next time, they will not get it easy from the side of the Speaker. I'm not speaking for the Speaker, but from the little that I've known the Speaker as a journalist who was also practicing from Parliament, I know him as a very strong leader, and that he doesn't countenance things of this nature. So this one, it is just to tell them that go and sin no more.
Grateful to you. Let me bring in Sami Obeng, who is Executive Director for Parliamentary Network Africa. Sami, now that the suspension has been taken off, what must happen for the culprit on Thursday, of the Thursday incident, not to be left off the hook? Sami, do I still have you? I want to find out what needs to be done to ensure that the real culprit of the Thursday incident are not left off the hook once these 4 MPs have been reinstated. Okay, this is Top Story. I'm trying to connect to Sami Obeng, who is Executive Director for the Parliamentary Network of Africa, Parliamentary Network Africa. Sami, I want to find out from you, what should happen so that the real culprit of the Thursday incident will not be left off the hook? Well, I don't seem to be getting him. Let me go to Professor Roger Krantin. The Prof, what do you think should happen so that the people who were part of the Thursday incident, those who contributed to it, will not be left off the hook, but will get them for them to face the consequences of the actions?
Yeah, I think that a lot depends on the Speaker. Of course, it's the Speaker's house. You see, you have 2 ways of doing these things. It's politics. And politics is always jostling for to hear your voice and do all that. So I'm not too sure whether these kinds of course, not the kinds of distraction we see, but this kind of banter in Parliament is not going to happen again. It's going to happen. But it depends on how the Speaker manage his house. You can do 2 things. You can be a very stringent Speaker where you're going to be always going to try to force people in line, and the house is going to be on always more or less on fire because others will oppose Speaker and Speaker is going to insist. Or you can be a Speaker who is father for all, who will listen to both sides and try to find a amicable way to address things. It depends on how the Speaker wants to go. You can go the strong arm, always cracking the whip at least offense, or you can be very magnanimous, particularly to particularly to the minority who are very small, who want their voice to hear. At the end of the day, majority had nothing to worry about, because it is about majority carries the day, no matter what.
All right.
So I wouldn't be too worried. Now,
I'm
in terms
to
of
you,
the
Prof.
punishment,
We'll have to leave it here. This has been Top Story, brought to you always by Telecel Connecting Energies, Holy Insecticide Spray and Coil. Enjoy holy sleep. Up next is Newsnight.
Live on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra, Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, and over 30 affiliates across the country. Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. Tonight, government prepares for the shutdown of Tema gas pipeline in less than 24 hours as the deadline from WAPCO elapses soon.
We look forward to the light crude oil being delivered, which will require some time to treat. And so we've made significant progress. It still remains a bit tight, but we are determined to ensure that we scale through this period. Right after this,
well, we will hear from WAPCO and government. Also, government tails a series of reviews, including the entire downstream petroleum sector and the gold for oil policy to avert another fuel shortage shockwave.
We will review the entire downstream petroleum sector.
They can even look at an OMC and say that this one is rich, let's charge this amount. Stock shortages in depots lead to supply disruptions.
Certain level of protectionism need to happen.
Also coming up, government urges swift action as the National Tripartite Committee begins negotiation on the 2025 minimum wage and base pay. Tonight we'll hear from organized labor on the expectations as well as labor experts.
The assurance is given to consider a rescission of the decision you communicated to the House.
I also, on behalf of my side, appeal to you to reconsider your decision and lift the suspensions so that our colleagues can join us.
Well, we'll hear more about the change of tone and bipartisan plea that moved the Speaker to lift some disciplinary sanctions against 4 MPs for their role in the chaos at the Appointments Committee sitting last Thursday.
I am satisfied and I will proceed to lift the suspension of the 4 members of Parliament that I considered were involved in disorderly conduct which amounted to contempt.
Also, we'll find out if any member of Parliament dared to respond to this question from the Speaker.
Be on your feet.
We're live in Parliament as the House prepares to approve outstanding ministerial nominees, and Chairman of the Appointments Committee talks tough as he hints of strict guidelines for the next phase of vetting of ministerial nominees, including capping the number of guests accompanying nominees to a ceiling of 10 persons. We'll hear from Bernard Ahiafo, who says his calm nature as chair cannot be taken for granted.
Personally, I'm not going to introduce more than 10 anymore, and that the marshal should be by the gate. You see, I will give you room to operate, but don't abuse it.
Business.
First Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Maxwell Pokuafer, is set to proceed on leave from tomorrow prior to the end of his contract later this year.
In sports,
Asante Kotoko suspend all football-related activities until justice is served for late fan.
Well, you need to stick and stay with us here on Newsnight. My name is Fostina Safan. I'm doing this with
Kenneth.
is why we dey connect each child. E no be say we wan make one our loved ones happy.
Daddy, thanks for the tea cash, okay? I love you.
That be my daughter, Angela.
Meba Kojo, yami sure why. Tea cash na ba. Me no papa yina jawase.
Say I go take care of my parents, it be my duty. Say make I pay my bills. I dey use Telecel cash. The suppliers for my shop there.
Hello boss, I get a Telecel cash alert too. They deliver the things right here.
I dey make them happy because I fit pay them directly to my merchant number for any network talk. Then sort my people out with Telecel cash for free.
If one a family parties, then business partners they happy. It be they make one a connection strong. Carry Telecel cash, send money, give your people for them a Telecel cash wallet store. Any day, anytime. It be free. Make you save money. Tap cool. Then make your menace smile. Anytime you go carry Telecel cash, send them money.
Telecel, connecting energies.
You're welcome once again. Remember, you can join us with your thoughts and comments on our WhatsApp platform 055 1111997. And tonight, you have to brace for a total shutdown of the Tema gas pipelines as WAPCO's final deadline arrives, which was originally set for October 2024. The mandatory maintenance was postponed at the Ministry of Energy's request to January 20th, and the John Mahama administration then appealed for a second delay, pushing it by more than 2 weeks to secure the $89.9 million for liquid fuel to power plants in Tema. And at the time, the alternative fuel supplies were not ready. Now, with the February 3rd deadline here, the government has no choice but to allow the shutdown. The real question now is, are they prepared? Just days ago, the energy minister spoke to us about the government's readiness. Let's listen to him.
I was coordinating the task force on the energy sector, and so this places an onerous responsibility on me. Very challenging, very difficult, no doubt about that, but I'm determined to do my best. And so I look forward to working with all Ghanaians in humility, and together I'm sure we can turn things around.
Yeah. The president gave you a thumbs up that you played a critical role in ensuring that we averted this looming power crisis. We're curious to know what specifically you did.
Well, we've placed some emergency cargoes of fuel. So we are taking delivery of about 450,000 barrels of light crude oil. We are taking delivery of about 30,000 metric tons of HFO and a similar quantity of distillate fuel. We've already started taking delivery of distillate fuel and the HFO. We look forward to the light crude oil being delivered, which will require some time to treat. And so we've made significant progress. It still remains a bit tight, but we are determined to ensure that we scale through this period. Right after this, we have another one in March, when the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah will also be shut down for another 2 weeks in the east, which means that gas from Jubilee fields will no longer be delivered. That creates a deficit there. And so we started working around the clock ahead of time to also see how we can manage it. The major challenge confronting the sector has to do with money and also fuel. We are determined to look at that. In the downstream sector, we're going to undertake major reforms, both legal, statutory, regulatory, financial, technical. We're setting up a committee which will have MPA represented on it, BOSS represented on it, other stakeholders like the bulk distribution oil company, like the oil marketing company, and government officials. We want an all-encompassing approach. We'll also review the upstream sector to attract the oil majors, and also review the power sector to come up with policies and programs that would best fit and increase our overall capacity. And so it looks challenging, it's daunting, but I'm very, very confident that given the caliber of people we have in Ghana, we'll tap into everybody's expertise and work together to turn things around.
Right, so that's the Energy Minister, John Jinapor, days ago. Let's get onto the telephone lines and have a conversation on this. And the General Manager of Corporate Affairs at WAPCO, Dr. Isaac J. Doku, joins me on the phones with more. Doc, thank you very much for your time. In the last statement that was released by WAPCO, the deadline elapsed yesterday. When will the shutdown commence?
Yes, thank you for having me, and a very good evening to your cherished listeners. Yeah, like you said rightly, we delayed the start of the maintenance to the 3rd of February. Since then, we've had further consultation of all stakeholders, and by stakeholders, that will be impacted. I mean, the countries of Benin, Togo, and Ghana. We're able to look at our schedules, and as I speak now, we had another 2-day delay. So tomorrow, which is the 5th of March, is when officially we'll start the cleaning and maintenance and inspection services. That is tomorrow, the February 5th. That is when we'll start.
How long do we expect this exercise to last for?
Well, as indicated, the estimation is that it's going to last for 4 weeks. So it's going to run from the 5th of February all the way to the 2nd of March.
Do we expect to find in the pipelines? I'm asking this because we know that you had to delay the maintenance work because of pleas from government.
Come again, please.
I'm asking what we expect to find in the pipelines, and I'm asking because we know that you had to delay the maintenance work and because of pleas from government. Looking at what you have on your table, has there been further damage to the pipelines?
No, we cannot tell at this time until the whole process is cleaning the pipeline and then having an intelligent instrument to run through the pipeline to actually examine the interior of the pipeline. As I've said previously, this is something we do every 5 years. So until we've actually finished the operations and downloaded the data from what we call the intelligent pick, and to analyze it, we cannot really say if there are any damage. But, I mean, these are high precision pipeline materials that are constructed for these kind of pipelines. So it's not something that easily gets damaged. But the data will tell us what measures we need to take.
Okay, and more people are wondering whether you will be able to work within the time frame that you've given.
Well, that we hope that we'll be able to work within the time frame, because not to be technical, we push an instrument, a gauge through the pipeline, and the number of days that we expect to use to clean the pipeline depends on how fast the gauge will travel from our station in Lagos all the way to Takoradi. This will normally take about between 3 to 5 days, depending on the pressure of the gas that we put behind the instrument. So based on this travel time, we may run, depending on, again, what we pick up during the first pick that runs through the pipeline. That will determine how many picks. But we estimate to run about 4 to 6 picks to clean the pipeline before the intelligent pick goes through. So it's based on this travel time of the pick through the pipeline that we believe that within the 4 weeks, we should be able to carry out all the cleaning and also running the intelligent tool to actually tell us the state of the pipeline.
Okay, thank you very much for your time this evening. Dr. Isaac Doku is the General Manager of Corporate Affairs at WAPCO. And Fostina, let's bring our listeners more stories tonight.
Indeed, let's stay in energy and energy-related stories, because the challenges in the energy sector, Ken, they are far from over. Just weeks ago, there were scares of a possible fuel shortage at the various pumps, with the potential to cripple the economy and businesses. Now, to address that concern, government has tabled two industry players a series of reviews, including reviewing the entire downstream petroleum sector and the gold for oil policy to avert any other fuel shortage shockwave. Well, my colleague Michael Ashali joins me in the studio. He was at that crucial meeting earlier today. Michael, tell us more.
Well, Fostina, so we'll start with the series of meetings that he's been having. What we know that he's been meeting the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies together with the BDCs and again also the transport sector, those that move the fuel from where it's been discharged to where it would possibly be needed. The first meeting with the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, we understand that the Chamber had a lot of issues to narrate to the minister about the sector. We can listen to Dr. Riverson Opon, who is the CEO of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, listen, a long list of issues they have in the sector.
Sometimes there are inadequate products available in Takoradi and Kumasi, for the reason why at the end of last year we saw some fuel shortages in the middle belt. Later we knew that BOST decided to revamp without no communication. Our members were not in the known. All we knew that we had to now apply for cross-analyzation policy or exemption for our members to move fuel from Tema to Kumasi. For the past 1 month, we've had, and even beyond, we've had constant disruption of ICOMs, and then also getting objection construction permits from MPA sometimes takes so much effort, so much phone calls. Deactivation of our members from the EIDMS with no prior notice has been rampant. As an OMC company, we just pass it on to the retail pump price. So if all the system challenges go down, we believe price might even, from our members' side, can be a thing that we can look at. And then involvement of numerous regulators and associated fees that add up complexity to our operation environment.
Right, that indeed sounds like a long list of complaints. But Michael, I'm curious to know the challenges we know run deeper. The Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors also met with the minister. What did they tell him?
Well, they have issues about the quantum of investment that they have done within that sector, and how just sometimes arbitrarily and sometimes unilaterally too, some of these government oversight agencies, they think that are sometimes bullying them around, even though they have made a lot of investment. Sometimes they are giving monies to pay they don't think that should be fair, or sometimes they should be consultant. You can listen to Dr. Patrick Ofori also making these challenges known to the minister.
Protection of our investment. And why do we say this? Some time back, we were made to invest within the Tama enclave. We were made to construct pipelines to pass through Tor to ensure that there are no pipelines crisscrossing. But here we are at times that you wake up one morning without even recourse to the regulator. Tor will raise a new bill that they will invoice you, that throughput fee is this. These are some of the things that we want the sector minister to look at. We were made to invest in tank farms within the eastern corridor, the Tema enclave. Within a space of few time, then the regulator comes in, whether we've recovered our investment or not. Then comes in zonalization that we needed to do that. So as you really want us to progress, the kind of protection that the IOTCs get with the upstream is something that we'll be looking forward at. So that if I'm borrowing and I'm investing maybe over $10 million, certain level of protectionism needs to happen. And the government can also trust us that our commitment to ensure that they achieve their goals will never be in vain.
Well, to resolve some of these challenges, the Energy Minister, John Jinapor, proposed a review of the downstream petroleum sector and the Gold for Oil program. And Ken, thankfully, the Minister joins us via phone with more on this.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time here on Newsnight. Now, let's start with the planned shutdown of the gas pipeline in Tema. Is government really ready for this?
Thank you very much. We're doing everything we can to reduce whatever impact and possibly contain the situation and ensure that we are able to supply enough power. The pigging exercise is expected to commence on the 5th. And so we've been having a series of meetings and putting in place contingency measures to ensure that during that critical period, we continue to supply power. I've just received the final report, but what I can say is that what it means is that gas from Nigeria would be curtailed. Also, the river flow from Takoradi to Tema will be curtailed as well. And so you could be losing about 200 million scf of gas, which is quite critical. The fallback would be to procure some emergency fuel. We've so far procured some amount of fuel. We're still working, but we are running a very tight schedule. But we are doing everything we can to ensure that we are able to handle the situation. So WAPCO is going to issue a statement. Gridco would also issue a statement. And then from the fees, they will start the conversion.
Now, with the fuel you have purchased, do we have enough to keep our lights on?
We've taken delivery of some. We are expecting some more, barring any unforeseen circumstances. Unless a plant trip or unless we have a major challenge, we should be okay. We should be okay. Even though, let me admit that it's very, very tight. We'll be running without the usual reserve or margin that we need as a buffer. And so we'll just be running it very tight to ensure that we deliver the power that we require to contain the situation. But what will happen is that usually you would be converting the plants from gas and switching them to liquid fuel, which means that you have to bring the plants off and then restart and put them on, which is also another process. But the engineers are working around the clock, and they will keep updating the general public on the situation.
Right, Mr. Judapo, WAPCO have indicated that their exercise is expected to last a month. Do we have enough fuel to last us till that time?
We've put in place all the adequate measures to ensure that we'll get fuel to last us that period. In fact, we are even thinking of what happens beyond that period. It's quite difficult, let me be honest, it's very expensive. We are talking of a lot of money that is required. But we are working with the Ministry of Finance and the energy sector agencies to see what we can raise internally and what the Ministry of Finance can augment. So we are on it.
So with the fuel we have now, how long will it last us?
When we took over, as I said, some of the fuel could last just 2 days. Now, with the fuel we are getting, we should be able to do the 1 month. We should be able to do the 1 month. Just that some of the plants run only on gas. For instance, at Soglis Phase 1, the plants run solely on gas. So even when you have the fuel, liquid fuel, you cannot run on liquid fuel. So we must be looking at some alternatives. And we are working with all the plants to check on those that can run on both gas and fuel or liquid fuel to switch them. So like I said, it's very tight. Let me admit, it's very tight. But we are ruling government and we have to do whatever we can to find a solution.
So are you giving us the assurance that there is not going to be any doomsday within that period?
We are determined to ensure that we have adequate supply of power during that period.
Should we expect a load shedding timetable?
Not that I can tell you, because normally you issue a load shedding timetable when you are certain that you have a certain deficit. But assuming you are switching a plant and you put it off and you are bringing it on, you hope that you will switch it on. So there will be no need for a load shedding timetable. And so consumers should bear with us. It's fluid, but we don't think that you're going to have that kind of prolonged outage where you need to come out with a load shedding. We are determined to deal with the situation and ensure that we deliver power. So there will be no need for a load shedding timetable.
Okay, Mr. Jinapo, briefly, let's talk about your meeting with the petroleum sector players, the review of the petroleum sector and the gold for oil policy. Specifically, what do you intend to change?
Well, we need to review the sector. There are some lapses, there are some inefficiencies. We need to clarify the role of all the agencies, and that is very, very important. Also, we must ensure that we keep up with modern trends and developments in the downstream petroleum sector. And so we are asking representation from the bulk oil distributors, representation from the oil marketing companies, representation from NPA, from BOS. We want to make it as inclusive as possible. So we'll consult amongst ourselves. And then we can go to Cabinet and Parliament with a reviewed regulation to regulate that sector. Gold for oil, we would not continue with the current structure. We would change it. What we need is adequate forex. And the Ministry of Finance is already working on a gold board. So we, on the other side, on the oil sector, would also review it and make it more transparent, and make it more accountable in order to bring about overall improved efficiency.
Right, John Jinapor is the energy minister. Thank you very much. And Fostina, it appears that there's going to be likely an increment in the minimum wage. What are we learning?
Oh, we're learning a lot. Government is urging swift action as the National Tripartite Committee begins negotiation on the 2025 minimum wage and base pay. Now, the discussions involving employers, organized labor, and government representatives are expected to be concluded by April 2025 per the Public Financial Management Act. Now, a statement from the Minister of State, Government Communications Officer Designate Felix Kwachiofosu urged stakeholders to expedite the process for the 2025 budget. And Maxwell Baba joins me in the studio, Presidential Affairs Correspondent. Maxwell, what else are we learning?
Well, the National Tripartite Committee, represented by government, employers, and organized labor, we're told by the Felix Kwachiofosu, the Minister in charge, Minister of State, Government Communications. He mentioned that the negotiations started yesterday, that's Monday, February 3, 2025. It says negotiations for base pay, that's public sector salaries, will follow those for the minimum wage. Now, he continues to say that as negotiations for both the minimum wage and base pay for the 2025 financial year are behind schedule, having been expected to conclude by the end of April 2024 per the Public Financial Management Act. Government urges social partners, referring to employers and organized labor, to collaborate with government to expedite the process and ensure timely completion to inform the 2025 budget, Fostina.
Right, Maxwell, so tell us about the composition of this National Tripartite Committee, which is responsible for determining the minimum wage. Who and who are there?
So while the full list of members for the 2025 committee hasn't been released yet, we do know, according to the Ministry of Labour, that that committee will be chaired by the Labour Minister. That role is expected to be filled by Rashid Pelpo, pending parliamentary approval, and is swearing in by the President. Now, the committee itself is made up of 15 members, 5 representatives from the government, 5 from employers' organizations, and 5 from organized labor. Now, we can expect the Trade Union Congress to be among the labor representatives, given their influential role in past negotiations.
What is the current minimum wage in Ghana, and how has it evolved in recent years?
Now, the current national daily minimum wage stands at 18 cedis and 15 pesos, or roughly 363 cedis per month, based on the 20 working day calculation. Now, this figure was set at the end of 2023 when the Tripartite Committee, under the leadership of the former Labour Minister Ignatius Bafo, agreed to a 22% increase. Now, that brought the wage up from 14 cedis and 80 pesos in 2023 to its current level. Looking back, the minimum wage has seen incremental rises over the past few years, a 6% increase in 2021, 8% in 2022, and 9% in 2023. Now, the 22% hike in 2024 was notably more substantial.
Now, with that in mind, can we expect a similar increase for 2025?
Now, it is hard to say at this stage. The Tripartite Committee's decision will depend on a range of factors, including inflation, economic growth, and the cost of living. Historically, the increases have been modest, with the exception of last year's significant jump. Once the committee finalizes the 2025 minimum wage, their focus will shift to negotiating the base pay for public sector salaries, according to Felix Kwachiofosu, the acting spokesperson to the President.
Thank you, Maxwell Agbagba. Kenneth, let's do more on this.
Yes, and let's hit the telephone lines now and speak to the General Secretary of Trade Union Congress, Joshua. And Joshua, grateful for your time this evening. So what is organized labor's expectation for the 2025 minimum wage and base pay negotiations, looking at the current economic climate? Will you be considerate in your demands, maybe?
Thank you. And good evening to you. Yes. Thank you for having me on your program. My brother, I think this is a very difficult question, but I think that you will deal with it when you get there. We just started the first meeting, which constituted the technical committee to look at the indices, like was mentioned in your reportage. You look at the inflation, look at the cost of living, economic, and so many factors will be considered in this. And yesterday, after the committee has been constituted, they went straight into action. And it is expected that they will present their findings or their reports to the minister so that the minister will convene a meeting of the Tripartite Committee to look at the report, which will be submitted by the committee. So as I stand now, I'm unable to tell the report, the details of the report that will be presented by the technical committee until we meet to receive the report and consider the report as the beginning of the negotiations.
Okay. And do you believe the government and employers will agree to a wage increase that truly reflects the workers' needs?
I think they have to, because we are all in this country. We know the economic indices. We know how hard it has come for workers to make ends meet. We're also aware of the economy, how it is going down. But notwithstanding that, I think that government, during the course of this campaign, actually campaign on having fair reward for workers. So we think that this is the time for government to show that what he said during the campaign is actually fulfilling his promises. So we expect that something good will come out of these negotiations in spite of everything.
Right, and if this final agreement falls short of Labour's expectations, what actions will the TUC consider to push for a fair deal?
I think that let us all wait until we meet at the table, because negotiation can take so many forms. And I'm very confident that this president or this government, having taken office not even 2 months, I think that something good will come out of that negotiation. When you get to the bridge, you cross. But for now, the assurances I want to give employees is that let's see what the technical committee will present. Then you go into negotiations, and you will definitely come up with something.
Okay, Joshua Ansah, thank you for your time tonight. He's the Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress. Fostina.
Okay, now let me bring in Austin Game. He's a labor expert. Thank you so much for your time here on Newsnight. Now, with Ghana's current inflation rate and cost of living, what would be a realistic minimum wage adjustment that balances workers' welfare and economic stability?
Well, thank you very much. Well, as you indicated in your intro, this is about determination of the national daily minimum wage. So this is a wage that is supposed to help people who are the vulnerable in one way are able to get that to keep them going until they are in the formal side of employment. So that is just one side of it. The other side of it is that all the economic indices, that is why under the law, Section 11, on which the tripartite is built, Section C, it is important to consider all the economic importance of the nation in determining what that wage is that will lead to determining the base pay. And I think whenever we talk about fair wage, it imposes responsibility on the parties to ensure that we take into account the need for the growth of economic activities in the country in totality, so that we do not have a misapplication by way of giving just a wage to satisfy people's feelings and demands to spend, without considering that you can cause inflation by way of increasing wage when it is not done fairly.
Okay,
so
now many public sector workers, they argue that wage increases do not match the rising cost of goods and services. Now, I'm wondering what structural changes can be made to ensure fair and sustainable wage adjustments.
Yeah, it's about ensuring that you pay people based on productivity. So we expect that the employer will ensure that its objectives that are normally elucidated in the budget of the country will contain all those ingredients, so that the people will be given their targets And once you fulfill it, then you are paid reasonably well. We do not just pay people for the sake of appearing at the workplace. That's the most unfortunate. That's why I believe the tripartite committee itself, as it's constituted, especially under section 113C, they will take into consideration all those indices so that in setting the minimum wage or the base pay, the nation will not suffocate, the workers will not suffocate.
In previous negotiations, labor unions, they've always threatened strikes when their demands were not met. Do you think strikes may remain an effective bargaining tool in Ghana?
To be honest with you, a strike is not necessarily a bargaining tool. It's a misplacement of priority. The reality is that when you are negotiating and one side refuses to participate in the negotiation, especially on the side of employers, then those kind of tactics, that's why I use the word tactics. It's not a strategy. So tactics are used that way. But once the parties share good information, like they are doing now, I had the Secretary General rightly place it. They set up a committee to take a look at the indices and submit a report. It means they are sharing relevant information so that all the parties will be seized with the same thing. There will be no need. And the law is very clear that during the course of negotiation, no party will intimidate the other party, neither from government, employers, or workers. And therefore, there is no need. That's an old mechanistic thing that I use. Today, we are living in a 21st century. Civility is prevailing. I think they can be able to make it.
Thank you so much, labor expert there, Austin Gami.
Fostina, before we go to business, though, I'm looking at the minimum wage per month, which is 363 Ghana cedis, and you appear to spend more than that every day. You're actually spending people's monthly salaries in a day.
Well, God has been good to me.
But
Has he been good to you?
basically, I think that is more of a flaw that nobody should be paying below, if I can use that expression. So you would argue that there's anybody in the formal sector that is being paid below the minimum wage. It's illegal. Often when there is a review, then it also form a basis for others in the other public sector space to also push for a review, even the private sector, that if it has gone up, if it's a benchmark, then also go up by start.
So I can go and argue my case for salary
Again,
increment.
it depends on your collective bargaining agreement and depending on where you're
Ken,
operating.
are you
But
listening?
it's a flaw that nobody is supposed to pay below that when it comes to daily wage that you extend to your workers.
Okay, George, take us to business.
Well, coming up in business, first Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Maxwell Pokuafari, said to proceed on leave from tomorrow prior to the end of his contract later this year, and Talo oil projects significant turnaround in its operations for this year following the resolution of the tax charge by the Ghana Revenue Authority, so as resuming or returning to drilling works later this year. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business, Kingdom Books and Stationery, Tanks and Pepsodent, Herbal and Charcoal.
The other day, I visited Kweku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,
it's MTN broadband. In this fast-paced environment, we need fast and reliable internet to support all business types. No lag online meetings, great download and upload speeds, impeccable business management systems, all inclusive. I mean, you can have it all.
Sharp! I signed on immediately.
To enable your business stay ahead and stay connected, make sure you're signed on to the best internet made just for businesses. MTN Business Broadband. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh and manage your account on my MTN app. Call 0244 308 111 for more information. We are good together everywhere you go.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kingdom Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
That makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHF, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Yafini gave us the vibe. Now, Inshona Chili makes you thrive.
Yes, so it's time to enjoy, Charlie. Buy or renew your motor insurance and boom! Free fuel coupons and airtime for your sweat. Who don't like enjoyment?
From January to June 2025, Enterprise Insurance gives you more reasons to smile on the road. Insure today and enjoy free fuel coupons for your car and airtime for your phone.
Free fuel? Airtime too? Hey! Enterprise Insurance, always your advantage.
Insure not chilly. It's simple. Insure and enjoy. Ready to secure your peace of mind and experience the fastest claims payment? Visit any of our branches or agency outlets nationwide. Connect with your insurance broker or enjoy the convenience of buying your insurance online through the Enterprise Advantage app today. Terms and conditions apply.
Enterprise, your advantage.
Cavity protection.
This advert is FDA approved.
Businesses know how important it is to create a productive and supportive working environment by investing in employees' health. With a leading international track record, Apex Health Insurance is licensed to provide medical insurance services to corporate organizations and SMEs. We also have international LH Blue cover and TPAs to cushion you. Multinational companies, factories, and government agencies focus on your business while Apex Insurance takes care of your health. Visit Apex Health Insurance office at Zion House, Boundary Road, Shiashi, Kumasi, opposite Prempeh College, Sofo Line, and Takrady Market Circle. For further inquiries, call 0501 562 962 or 0501 552 495. Apex Health, your preferred health insurer.
You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, the first Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari, is set to proceed on leave starting tomorrow. Now, this is prior to the end of his contract later this year. There is more in this report.
The Bank of Ghana, in a statement, announced that this has received the approval of President John Mahama. This will now mean that it will be left with Johnson Esiama, who was recently nominated by President John Mahama as Governor of the Bank of Ghana. Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari was appointed in August 7, 2017 for his first 4-year term as First Deputy Governor and reappointed for second term on August 7, 2021. He had been playing a major supporting role to the Governor of the Bank of Ghana when it comes to some reforms embarked upon by the Central Bank in recent times.
And that is a business desk report. Now, following this development, the bank would now be left with Dr. Johnson Isiema, who was recently nominated by the president, and also the second deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana, Madam Elsie Aduawaji. Now, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afare had been leading a lot of projects at the Bank of Ghana. One of them included these fintech initiatives that was championed by the central bank. Here is an interview with Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afare, who granted recently to Joy Business about what they are doing to support the fintech sector.
No, actually, the fintechs would rather tell you the Bank of Ghana has been extremely supportive and open, and this actually reflects that assessment. We have this sandbox environment that allows fintechs to be able to test their innovations without facing the entire compliance framework. In that sandbox, you're allowed to make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes, and when we finalize and fine-tune it, then you're able to then roll it out more broadly. So that is there. And so I think even this summit that we have introduced by itself tells you how open and engaging the central bank is with the fintechs, and I think that is a testament to how we've been engaging them.
You spoke about sandbox and
Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afare is the first deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana, speaking there to Joy Business about some of the initiatives that he led at the Bank of Ghana, now that he is also set to proceed on leave from tomorrow, leading to his end of his contract later this year. Now, the minority in Parliament is asking President John Mahama to direct the new governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiema, to refrain from official duties at the central bank. Now, this follows concerns from the minority that there's a letter to the president that noted that his nomination needs the approval of the Council of State. The minority in a letter also raised concerns about the fact that Dr. Isiema is already working at the bank despite these conditions not being met. But sources close to the Bank of Ghana are challenging these concerns coming from the minority. Joy Business understands that Dr. Isiema is only taking briefings at the Bank of Ghana and not engaging in any official duties. We are also learning that the president does not require Council of State approval. He is supposed to appoint in consultation with the Council of State and make sure that there is more of a formal notification that could be secured from the council on the development. We'll be getting more development and arguments and consultations when it comes to these things and what it means for the Bank of Ghana going forward. Two other stories, and Talo Oil is looking forward to some significant turnaround in its operations. It follows reports that they're having some issues with the company and that these developments may go a long way to turn things around based on some developments on the oil field for this year. There is more in the following report.
The chief executive of Tullow Oil, Rahul Dier, in a statement to investors noted that the forecast is based on some developments that has taken place last year that should positively influence their fortunes in 2025. Mr. Dier, in the company's trading update, cites the resolution of the tax charge with the Ghana Revenue Authority as a major development that should help turn things around. It also sees the resumption of fresh drillings on the Jubilee oil fields as another major development that will help improve production and its growth for 2025. Tullow Oil has been struggling over the past years due to challenges with production, while recent issues with tax payments in Ghana affected the company's operations. For some, a quick turnaround of its operation could be good for the country in terms of fresh employment and tax payments to government in the coming months.
And that is a business desk report. Now, Senior Manager for Accounting Advisory Services at financial firm KPMG, Stephen Brachi, is urging small and medium-sized business owners to adopt a robust cash collecting system to ensure that their business is actually in constant with cash flows. He shares these insights on Joy Business's advisory series program aimed at equipping small businesses with the needed support to grow their enterprises for this year.
One of the methods that they have to do is to streamline receivable. Receivable, when you sell goods on credit, you have to get them back on time. But many a times, it's difficult for companies to get the money on time. So you need to streamline, review the existing payment terms and reduce it if possible. That is one. Two, I said earlier, and I'm repeating, you manage the expenses. You need to be very strategic. So those ones that are high impact spending, those are the one that you need to pay rather than paying for everything that comes your way.
Stephen Brachi is a senior manager for accounting advisory services at the Financial Services Group, KPMG, and that's all for Business News Night, and it's time for sports with Daniel Kranting.
Straight into the stories, and Ghana Premier League side Asante Kotoko have put all football-related activities on hold until further notice following the murder of their fan in Nswatri over the weekend. While the Ghana Football Association and the Ghana Police have begun investigation into the matter, the Porcupine Warriors have also halted football-related activities until the perpetrators are brought to book. According to the club, only the juvenile team and players recovering from injuries who require rehabilitation will be allowed at the training center. Still on the matter, DCOP Lydia Donko, the chairperson of the GFA Security Committee, held a meeting with key stakeholders in the Bono region earlier today to foster unity among clubs and address the recent crowd violence at the Ghana Premier League game between Nswatriman and Asante Kotoko.
Well, Daniel, before you go, though, we know that the IGP has visited the Ashanti region. Today he was at the Secretariat of Kumasi Asante Kotoko. Are we picking anything from there?
Yes, he went there to pay a visit to the leadership of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, where he vowed that the police service will bring the perpetrators to book. He also spoke about the importance of fostering unity among clubs and understanding that football is rather supposed to bring people together instead of separating various parties. So that's what that meeting entailed.
Right, okay. Daniel Granton there, thank you very much for bringing us sports, but let's head to Parliament now. And on Top Story a while ago, we had the latest from the House, where there was a change of tone of the Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin on the suspension of 3 of his members by the Speaker of the House. He also took responsibility for the chaos last Thursday and begged for clemency for them. And he was joined by his colleague Majority Leader Mahama Yariga to plea for all 4 suspended MPs. Listen to that bipartisan plea.
The assurance is given to consider a rescission of the decision you communicated to the House. I also, on behalf of my side, appeal to you to reconsider your decision and lift the suspensions so that our colleagues can join us.
Well, the Speaker was moved by the plea, but also posed a question to members first.
Honourable members, I'm sure the first thing you have realized is that I've restored the title Honourable. The day I read my former communication to you and proceeded to suspend the 4 members, I never used the term Honourable. I have done so now because your leaders actually came to me to plead that I temper justice with mercy. If any of you here is not remorseful, please be on your feet.
Well, that's Speaker Alban Bagbin there. After this interaction, he then reversed his earlier sanction.
It's not only words. Before me, they demonstrated and assured me of their total support to me and the deputy speakers to ensure that we have an efficient and an effective functioning parliament in Ghana. So I am satisfied with not just the statement but also their conduct, and I will proceed to lift the suspension of the 4 members of parliament that I considered were involved in disorderly conduct which amounted to contempt.
Well, Kenneth, let's head back to Parliament, where the House is back from the break. They're expected to approve some ministerial nominees by consensus and 2 others, some George and Samuel Okujesu Ablakwa, by secret voting. Well, Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante is there for us. He joins us live with more. Kweku, what can you report?
Well, we haven't been told yet if an agreement has been reached. The House has been back for nearly an hour now, or even more. We have been discussing statements. First, it was Cancer, another on JP Dankwa, which is just about concluding because the majority leader is speaking on that. Right after that, we expect that the appointment committee report will be put to the floor, particularly in relation to the first set that includes Honorable Samuel Nati George, and then perhaps we'll also see the one that includes Samuel Blakwa. We have not been given an indication yet from the minority leader if he has softened his stance together with his caucus to allow the nomination go through by a voice vote, which will be that they would have dropped the stance against those two nominees, or they still insist that the report be taken by majority decision, which will mean then that it will be taken through a secret vote. But we'll get to know that pretty shortly when the current statement on the floor ends, and then the House moves to deal with the appointment committee report.
I know you've been speaking to both sides. What's their reaction so far?
Well, we have those in the minority believe that the two have not distinguished themselves and they haven't been remorseful about certain conduct that was put to them at the appointment committee, and so they believe that their side must stick to their guns, withdraw their cooperation, and allow this nomination to go through only by a secret vote. Then DGP, well, they have the numbers, and so they do not expect their leaders to go and cut any deal. Ultimately, the NPP side say they will not support those two. Then they have enough numbers, 187, to be able to take them through. And so ultimately, when it comes down to it, they are ready to vote, and they expect their leadership to stick to their guns, not force any of these persons to apologize, because that is what the NPP side are looking for. Less than a penny market and go up first. That if these two nominees then apologize to President Akufo-Addo for some of the comments they made in the past, they may be willing to let the nomination go through without a need for a secret vote, but the NDC say that should not happen.
Thank you, Kweku Asante. Join us live from Parliament.
Fostina, let's stay a while in the House of Legislature because the first Deputy Speaker and the Chairman of Parliament's Appointments Committee, Bernard Ahiafo, is tonight talking tough. He has served notice that it will not be business as usual as the House proceeds to receive the next phase of ministerial nominees from President Mahama, as Kweku Asante has told us. Now, clashes erupted during the ministerial vetting last week, resulting in the destruction of furniture and microphones.
Well, the Speaker of the House, in view of the chaos, suspended 4 MPs while making orders for the reconstitution of the committee. Now, although the Speaker has lifted the suspension of the 4 MPs, Bernard Ahiafo says some strict measures will now be enforced, including capping the number of invited guests of nominees to 10.
Waiting for the nomination. And as soon as we receive the nomination, 2 things are to happen by way of preliminary actions. One is to write officially to the security agencies to have report on each of the nominees. 2 is to write for a publication to be made, and then memoranda should be submitted by the general public. Now, when the committee is satisfied that these 2 things are done, then we'll have our preliminary committee meeting. And at that particular preliminary committee meeting, we'll program who is going to be vetted first, second, third, fourth, fifth. In view of the fact that they are deputy ministers, how many are we doing in a day? You understand? Right. Then, having agreed on that, instruction will be given to the clerk of the committee, and based on the arrangement, the clerk of the committee will write to each nominee stating the date and the time the nominee is supposed to appear before the vetting committee and to be vetted. And when the date and time is due, then the committee will proceed to vet the said deputy minister. Will you?
Right, and the full interview is available on all our social media platforms. And don't forget to catch another riveting edition of PM Express tonight at 9 p.m. on the Joy News channel with Blessed Sugar, where they are discussing the implications of the gold for oil policy. But before we go out of the
some
studio,
of you have been giving us your comments on this. Ken, let me read some of them. This one says, what Joshua and Sir have said is totally true. This is coming from Sena. And another one from Nana Boateng says, I must commend the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, for lifting the suspension of the 4 members of Parliament.
Okay, and the Geek Squad are here already. What are we discussing tonight?
We are in a new year and a lot of